Good evening and welcome to the August 5th, 2014 Jurupa Unified School District Board of Education meeting. We start with a roll call, please. And Mr. Schaefer, would you lead us in the flag salute, please? Thank you very much. We will start with the recognitions and recognize the JETS team. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. The board will recall that earlier this year, Mrs. Hancock, who is the chairperson and the race director for the City of Jurupa Valley's 5K, came and invited us to participate. And the Education Center of the district put together a team and was a great part of the race and really enjoyed it. And she's here tonight to provide us a little recognition. So, Mrs. Hancock.
Good evening. As Mr. Dabrowski has said, I'm a little bit of correction on the agenda. I want to make sure it's very clear that I am not here representing the City of Jurupa Valley. I'm here representing the Jurupa area and Jurupa area Parks and Recreation District. So just to be sure of that, they are the sponsoring organization for this annual 5K, and we use the city's name so people know where we're at. But that's the only reason. So. As he mentioned, we had a great support for the JETS team, which stands for Jurupa Education Team Staff. The captain was Mr. John Allen, and Mr. Dabrowski was incredibly instrumental in getting the ball rolling on our team events. Nonetheless, we had a great turnout. We had 26 entries from the district, and want to recognize that they took second place out of the teams that participated. So we have a certificate from the Parks District that we'd like to present to you. And I just want to personally express my gratitude to Mr. Dabrowski. He was a great resource for our 100 Mile Club. We got several more kids this year than we had the year before. And also, John Allen just took the bull by the horns and created a team and generated a lot of enthusiasm. And to both of them, I'm very, very grateful. They were very instrumental in the success of our race. Just for your information, we had 370 participants. We had 60 team members. We had 35 kids come and run the 1 mile, which is more. We didn't have that last year, so that was 35 more children that came out and participated. And we had 27 100 milers, which is probably 24, 25 more than last year. So it's good to see more of the youth participating. And it was really nice to see many of you out there on the course as well. I just want to mention a couple of names that were part of the team. So I think a team, every member is important, and one not more than the other. We had John Allen, Sandra Amatran, Adele DeVolder, the Dabrowski family, Elliot Duchan, Paula Ford, Phil Ford, Jeannie Fortin, Janet Garcia Hudson, Isaac Garza Gonzalez, David Hudson, Michelle Johnson, Josh Lewis, Daniel Medina, the Mendez family, Cecilia Montejo, Michelle Morales, Teresa Moreno, Sonia Porter, Heidi Ritchie, Corina Saldana, and Margie Seibert. So those were your participants, and we hope to have many more of you next year, even to come and just walk it and be with us that morning. And so I don't know who I present this to, but do I? Thank you very, very much. Before I sit, I feel wanted to get the happy things out of the way. But on behalf of the Hernandez family, and Debbie in particular. I would like to express our deepest gratitude to whoever was responsible for sending the beautiful potted plant to her home. I was there when it arrived, and it brightened her spirits and lifted her heart. And I know she truly appreciates that and all the other efforts that were made on behalf of the Board of Education and the staff here to recognize the loss of her husband. And I just feel inclined to share that gratitude with you because I know that she feels that in her heart, and I knew that she's doing well. She's back to work, and the kids are back to work and trying to pick up the pieces and move forward with her life. But as you can imagine, it was very difficult. So please keep her in your prayers, and that would be most appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have to report out from closed session. Mrs. Elzick.
Thank you. The board voted on 3 appointments in closed session. The first, excuse me, get my glasses on. The board voted with a 4-0 vote to appoint Jeff Ray as the high school assistant principal at Jurupa Valley High School. Mr. Ray.
I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. I'm really excited about being part of the Jurupa team, and I'm looking forward to working with the community as well. So thank you again.
In closed session, the board also voted to appoint Paul Reed as the high school assistant principal at Patriot High School. Mr. Reed.
I'd like to thank you as well. I'm looking forward to getting to know each of you better and continuing the excellence that I've heard about and read about for Jurupa Valley Unified School District. Thank you.
And in closed session, the board voted by a 4-0 vote to appoint John Allen as the coordinator of professional development, and that is contingent on the board establishing the position and the salary in open session tonight. Congratulations.
Thank you so much, and I'm very excited for this opportunity to work with the staff and to continue professional development in our district. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, and I would like to recognize Dr. Wendell Tucker, newly elected County Board of Education, sitting at the back. Thank you for joining us tonight, Dr. Tucker. Next, we have public verbal comment, and first is Iris and Sandra Franco.
Good evening. My name is Iris Nunez. I'm a parent volunteer for this district, beautiful district, Jurupa Unified. I'm a very proud parent, and we're here in behalf of all of these kids. There are a lot of needs in our schools. We know there's a lot of necessities in our school sites, and working with this committee put more heart into it. We're really hoping for the board to make the best decision in this bond that we do really need. It's not just about the look of a school, it's about safety of our students, and also making the students achieve their goal and their education that they need. So I would like to have my friend Sandra.
Good evening. My name is Sandra Franco, and I'm representing Rubidoux High School, Mission Middle School, Peralta, and Stone Avenue. And I just wanted to ask you all, if it's in your hands to make a difference for these children, and if we can make our district better, please, we're asking, help us to make this dream happen of the facility and a change for our district. Thank you.
A change for our district. Thank you so much. We're really hoping that you guys are gonna take the best decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ricardo Solis.
Good evening, board. My name is Ricardo Solis. I had the pleasure to join some of you guys in the committee, and I felt it was necessary for me to speak out during the meetings to hear my perspective. I was blessed to come to this district 4 years ago, and since I've looked only to further myself within the district and to see it grow, and that's what I see that we're doing as we were going through the committee and as we're evaluating the bond and looking at the perspective as to what we can do with it, and if we do decide to go forward with it, what it really means. And as you guys are looking at that decision, I wanted to bring some points. There's so many different perspectives to bring, so I'm just going to bring a few. Of course, the one that's ever at the top of everybody's mind is the technology perspective. I can only come up with the scenario. As we're coming closer to the beginning of the school year, I envision a school office where the secretaries are juggling amongst task after task after task after task. And I can see them on the phone at the same time, getting a phone call about a student that has an allergy. If we didn't have technology and we didn't have the type of technology that we're looking for, she probably would take out a piece of paper, write it down, and then maybe about 3 hours later, when there was an opportunity, send somebody with that note to that child. With that technology and what we're trying to do right now, a teacher or an office assistant has the opportunity to take that note onto an email and send it within seconds. Of course, there are other options as we look to further our technology. Maybe they could even have a voice over IP and just send a quick message from their office screen over to the classroom screen where it could just pop on, or send a voice message to them. These things are important, and they happen instantly, day in, day out, and we can't really predict those kind of things, but they're the kind of things that we can prepare for, and we can help our staff. We were talking about facilities. One of the things that really stood out for me, in the past I used to work in a preschool classroom, so of course I look at things from a different perspective. I think about them as they're walking. We see a crack and we're older, we may lose our balance, but we're not going to fall. For a small child, if they fall, that probably means that they're going to the office, they're going to have to see the nurse, and probably go home. So what does that mean? Now we have to talk to a parent about their child being hurt. We have to send a child that's hurt home, and we don't know what their insurance is like. Plus, on top of that, the most important thing, a child comes to our schools to be educated, so now they're out of the classroom and not receiving that instruction. All of this could possibly have been avoided by just addressing some of those facility needs, like, say, a pathway that has a crack or is uneven. Just kind of moving over a little bit, taking that further, we have, like, say, back to school nights. We may have a mom who's carrying a child, or a teacher that is taking their load to do their presentation, and with these uneven pathways, everything can just fall down. So just some safety and things that we can prepare and take a look at. We also looked at some of the schools. The lighting was to say the least, it needed some attention. We have programs that run well until like 5, 6 o'clock at night when it's really dark already. And we have kids who are 6 years old and above when they qualify for the program. And walking alone at that time is probably not the safest for them. On top of that, we have our staff. I think that's important for our staff as well. If we have our staff there that works late into the night, taking care of everybody else's needs, we should have adequate lighting for them so that they feel safe as they're walking around and doing their job. We've touched lightly on career tech. Having that perspective in technology, of course, I think that's one of the key things to look at. What can we do in career tech? I think about many of my past students and my siblings and my friends who've had like 4.2, 4.3 GPAs and opted not to go to college. Instead, they did a career in something different. I have a very good friend of mine that works right now in the cabinet business. Every day he uses calculus, making a production for them. So there are other options now, but as we look at those type of things, we have to think about infrastructure, we have to think about location, and we have to think about equipment. And though, as a teacher, I can say I want everything for our child, we also have to make sound decisions. And if we do decide to pick a career tech and go down that line, I would say to just try to make the best of it. I know our time is short, and like I said, I could go on forever, have a lot of different perspectives, and I wish you guys the best, and I hope that we make a decision that works well for our district now and in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Rob Little.
Good evening, President Schmidt, board members, Mr. Duchamp. I would like to take a few moments and introduce myself. I am Rob Little, president of NEA Jurupa. It is an honor for me to represent and advocate for the educators of this district, people that you proudly acknowledge as the finest in the area. I have worked on their behalf in a variety of capacities for roughly 20 years, and during that time, I've come to realize that their interests are best served when the relationship with the district is marked by mutual respect and trust. That is not and has not always been easy to achieve. Sometimes we have it, sometimes we don't. Sometimes the association has not risen to the task, and sometimes the district has not risen to the task. However, it is, I believe, always worth the time and effort to work towards that goal. It is my pledge to you that the association will strive to uphold their end of that relationship. Some of you I know and have had the pleasure of working with, others I have not. I look forward to developing a working relationship with each of you where we can seek and achieve what is best for the students and educators of this district. We face many challenges this year with Common Core, Smarter Balanced Assessments, LCAP, and LCFF. I invite you to embrace the experience and expertise that your teachers possess and trust them and partner with them to move student achievement forward. Give them a voice, give them a chance, and they will shine. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Kim Jarrell Johnson. Thank you. All right. And Mr. Anderson, you want to wait till G? All right. Thank you. Next, we will move on to item 3, administrative reports and written communications, information on the 2014-15 testing schedule and district assessment calendar. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. This is just an information item. You have before you in the attachments the 2014-15 testing schedule, which shows all the various different assessments that we'll be taking and when we'll be taking them for the district.
Thank you. And next is a report on the transition to Common Core State Standards, the CCSS, and the Local Control Funding Formula, LCFF. Mr. Dabrowski.
Thank you. I'm going to talk tonight again about units of study. I want to go back and I'd like to tonight share with you just one set of documents from one grade level, just to give you a sense of what it means when we talk about units of study. But first, just to go back a little bit, as you recall, last year, actually a year ago, May, we got together as a district with K-12 teachers and identified the priority Common Core standards in language arts and math K-12. And we started with that document, shared it with all of our teachers, got feedback and finalized those, and then began with those priority standards as the basis for where teachers would have the time and the permission and the resources to really deeply instruct and take the time to make sure students really master those standards. We began working with our Units of Study committee. Many of our best teachers were on that committee. There are language arts and math committees at each grade level, and over time they began developing these units of study. And I've talked with you a little bit about how those provide resources, but also contain lots of flexibility for decision-making on the part of the teachers. And so tonight I'm just going to take you through one of those units just to show what's ready so far, and what that looks like, and where that flexibility comes, and basically what I'm talking about when we say units of study. What I'm going to do is I'm going to sit at the computer, because we've talked about the digital platform where all this information resides, and I'm going to operate from the digital platform itself. I've printed off several of the pages for you, so I kind of show you just because it'll be easier than trying to look at the screen. So that on that first cover page you have, that little S, Units of Study, is now on every teacher's home screen. So they have access to that from their computer, and they can access it at home as well. Ricardo. Try to see it. I'm just going to talk from the paper for now. So once we get there, I'll show you how it looks digitally. But when our teachers log into that site, what they'll find is there's a Units of Study set of icons, and they can choose their grade level. So I picked the 6th grade Language Arts Unit 1, but as you'll see when we get through these units exist for all of the units in language arts and math at all of the grade levels, but we're just going to look at 6th grade language arts. Basically, the first document that they'll come across is page 2 in your packet, and that's the pacing guide for 6th grade language arts. And if you take a look at it, you can see it's broken up by the 3 trimesters, and there are 2 units in each of the trimesters for a total of 6 units. On the left, it shows how long those units last. You'll see where it says 5 weeks and 1 buffer. There's an extra week built into the units, so that whether it's testing, whether it needs some certain concepts need to be retaught, there's some extra room in that for teachers as they pace out. All right. Yeah. That's okay, I'll just use this. All right, let's try this again. So we start with 6th grade, and you've seen I'm going to go to Documents, Language Arts. You've seen the pacing guide, which is that page 2 of your document. It says unit name. That gives you a little sense of what the unit is about. For example, Unit 1 is Unexplained Mysteries. So that is an informational text unit. We've talked about how with the Common Core, there's a greater emphasis on informational text, and there's a balance now of both literature and information. So Unit 1 centers around informational texts, and it's about unexplained mysteries in this case. And then over here you see these are the numerical representations of the priority standards that are included in that unit. So from there, the next piece of information that is given is the unit organizer, and that starts on the next page you see. It says under JUSD Elementary ELA, and the first page shows the priority standards that are encased in that unit. So the teachers know each of the standards that need to be taught during that 5-week period. Which of them are tested? Those that are shaded are tested in the assessments that I'll show you. And those that are underlined are the priority standards, and those that are plain text are the supporting standards that didn't rise to the level of priority standard. So your page, first page shows those standards, and then moving down to the second page, you'll see at the top half is the remainder of the standards, and then the second half of that second page shows the big ideas and essential questions. Each unit contains a set of big ideas and essential questions. The essential questions are questions that the teachers are asking the students at the beginning of the unit, because they're the central, most important understanding that students need to get out of that 5-week period of time. So those are listed for teachers in the second page of the organizer. In the third and fourth page, you'll see a list of a series of skills, what students need to be able to do and what students need to know. And those are listed out for teachers. The 5th page shows academic vocabulary. And over on the left, you can see where it says evidence summarized. Those are vocabulary that have to do with the standards themselves. And then they've also listed some suggestions for text that teachers might use. And there's some vocabulary that would go along if they chose to use that particular text within the unit. And I notice it's a suggested text. Teachers have the freedom to use different pieces of text to accomplish the same task. Below that, you see a series of resources. These are other places where we can get information, teachers can get information that they may choose to use in their instruction during that 6 weeks. And there's a combination of both resources that are found in the books that we currently have, as well as online resources. And then as you keep going to the following page, there are some video resources, some books that are suggested, and then you get to a section that says engaging learning experiences. Now these are what we call performance tasks. They're tasks that students will do during the time of this 5 weeks. There are 3 tasks that students will complete, and all students will complete these tasks. So what we have, for example, task 1, there is a passage on Otzi, I think it's Otzi, the Iceman. It's an informational piece, and then some activities that students would need to do with that. Later on in the unit, there's task 2, where students are going to create a graphic organizer. They're going to trace and evaluate specific claims. One of the priority standards is evaluating claims, and that's because as we talk about the internet and all the information that is out there, students can't just go to an encyclopedia now to get information. They have to be able to determine if what they're reading is accurate and good information, or if it's opinion. So there's a process that teachers will teach students how to do that so that they can evaluate the sources that they're reading and determine if a claim is accurate or inaccurate. And then there's a 3rd task where they're going to research their own unexplained mystery. After having seen a series of different mysteries, they're going to pick that, they're going to research their topic, and they're going to write an argument supporting their point of view, either for or against a claim, and present their findings. They're going to create a project board, and they're going to be displayed in class. And so all students during that 5-week period will complete those tasks. However, the text that teachers use to get students ready for that task, the instructional strategies they use, will be what they pick themselves. So that is the organizer. It's sort of the outline of the unit that teachers receive. In addition to that, there's a pre and a post assessment. And as you can see, there's a teacher's edition and a student edition. So I'm going to show you the student edition. And in your packet, that's the next set of pages. I didn't give it to you guys because these are what the students are going to be taking, so we didn't want to spread the test out everywhere. But as you can see, there's a pre and a post assessment that is given at the beginning of the unit and at the end of the unit. And the next several pages show you what that test looks like. And again, it's unexplained mystery. So you see a passage about the Loch Ness Monster, some writing that students have to do, several answers that are not the typical A, B, C, D, pick a multiple choice answer, where students have to explain, students have to argue, students have to cite research, things that are important and very much in line with the Common Core standards. And then but then there are also some multiple choice questions as well. And as you get down towards the bottom, you can see there are also constructed response question rubrics, meaning the students will know, when I answer this question, what is it to make a good answer? What is it to make an advanced answer, a meets answer, a progressing answer, or a beginning answer that really doesn't master the topic? So they have an idea of what they're expected. And then there's the proficiency scale that shows how many points you need to get to be at the 4 different levels you might get to. So that assessment is taken by all students at the beginning and the end of the unit. There's also other information. For example, there are 2 study guides here that were uploaded if teachers choose to use these particular resources. There's a study guide that comes with it that they can choose to use if they would like to. There is a shared resource library where teachers can, we've talked about how teachers will be able to upload and share their resources that they find and that they recommend. And so there's, for each unit, there's some shared resources. Here are a series of informational text passages that align with the theme of unexplained mysteries. There are some resources for what might go on the instructional platform in the teacher's classroom. There's a discussion area where people can post questions, post suggestions, start a discussion about a particular piece of text or instructional strategy or what their kids are experiencing. And our instructional coaches will be an active part of that discussion board and help find answers, get answers, lead discussions, things like that. As you can see, there are already a few discussions going on here. And then there are some web-based resources as well. And here, for example, right now there's a biography on Amelia Earhart, a video, and a TeacherTube video, which was actually a student slideshow report made and published about Amelia Earhart. So if that's one of the unexplained mysteries that teachers choose to use, there are a series of resources that they can do. As you can see, this will grow exponentially as teachers are implementing and using the units and adding their own resources and discussing and talking about it. In addition, up here there is a coach's corner, which is where teachers can contact coaches, ask questions, maybe talk about a particular strategy, if they would like to see something modeled for them, if they would like to come and see something done a certain way. So the coaches are there and available and able to help with that as well. So that was Unit 1, 6th grade Language Arts. There are units available for all the grades. They're nearing completion. As you can see, there's a great deal of information available here for teachers, a lot of resources and support, and a place where that can grow and grow, and a lot of quality, because as you know, there's a ton of stuff out there available. It's just a matter of finding it all. And so when our teachers find good stuff, they can post it here, we can share, and we can grow, and we can pick the best things, and then they have the flexibility to determine which of these resources work the best in their classroom with their kids. I can go on forever, so I'll stop there. But that just gives you a little glimpse into what a unit of study looks like when I talk about that. If you have any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Dabrowski? Thank you, and thank all the teachers for designing these for everyone. Next is the opening of the school year report. Mr. Duchamp.
Thank you, President Schmidt. Well, this is sort of a wrap-up and a sort of pregame show all at the same time. So I'll tell you a few things about what's been happening in the district. First of all, we're starting with 903 certificated staff members. That includes classroom teachers, program specialists, nurses, psychologists, speech and language pathologists, counselors, guidance coordinators, behavior specialists, bilingual resource teachers, teachers on special assignment, and mental health counselors. We have 1,079 classified staff, so all about a little bit just shy of 2,000 employees. Our student projected enrollment is 19,253, and we are starting with a $201 million budget, the highest ever. You might be interested in knowing, that we served 180,000 slices of pizza last year, 2.7 million meals. We served 171,119 bottles of Gatorade. Thank you, University of Florida. 219,000, I am sure, healthy cookies, right, Mr. Bynum? And Mr. Bynum's in the back of the room to vouch for all this. Now, I can't remember the miles. I think it was 750,000 miles we drove. Is that about right? And how many gallons? Well, we use more CNG than gasoline. We've had several projects. We have a new running track at Ina Arbuckle, one at Jurupa Middle School. I'm just highlighting, we've remodeled and modernized the JVHS Library and Career Center, making it more modern, erecting a projector wall, and a newly renovated computer lab. Last year, we deployed 1,000 laptops and 1,500 multi-point 6-station computers. Let me see what else. The print, I shouldn't say this because we might be, somebody who loves trees might not like this, but we ran 26,877,610 copies for 8,517 print requests. We processed 267,000 pieces of mail, 1,859 warehouse requisitions. We remodeled and equipped restrooms at Rubendale High School. We carpeted 14 classrooms. We installed a block wall in the pool area for Rupa Valley High, and I will quit there, but you can see we have been busy. We are ready for students next week, and whether they're ready or not, we're ready for them. So thank you, and thank you to all the staff that did all that good work and more.
Thank you very much. And are there any other administrative reports or written communications?
No.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to the action session and approval of routine action items A 1 through 10.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Schaefer and a second by Mrs. Johnston. All those, roll call vote, please.
Trustee Johnston? Yes. Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
Yes. Motion passes 4-0. Item B, approve process to fill vacancy in trustee area 4. Okay, a vacancy occurred in trustee area 4 due to the death of trustee Bobby Hernandez. The board should determine if the vacancy will be filled by provisional appointment, which would be through the end of trustee Hernandez's term, December 2nd, 2016, or by consolidating a special election with the next available general election, which is March of 2015. The Riverside County Register of Voters, the Riverside County Office of Education, and the school district's attorney have informed the school district that a special election consolidated with the November 2014 election is not possible. Ed Code 5091B states, when an election is ordered, it shall be held on the established election date provided pursuant to Chapter 1, commencing with Section 1000 of Division 1 of the Election Code, not less than 130 days after the order of the election. The deadline to consolidate a special election with the November 2014 election was June 30th. If the provisional appointment process is selected, the board has 60 days. Day 1 would be July 13th to fill the seat, which would be by September 10th. The board would need to make a provisional appointment at the September 2nd board meeting. Information from the Riverside County Office of Education on the board's options for filing the vacancy are included in the supporting documents. So, Mrs. Johnson, Gerald Johnson, would you like to come up?
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the board. State law requires that we fill a position that is vacated within 60 days. When someone resigns, it may seem like a quick period, but it does seem like a doable period. I fully admit that in this instance, it almost seems disrespectful that we have to do it so quickly. It just seems, but that being said, the state law is that we have to do it within 60 days. I've thought about it a lot personally, and I would request that you set the matter for an election. While it's not ideal that Mr. Hernandez's seat would be vacant for 8 months. At the same time, I do think that we are a democratic country with a democratic process, and I know I would feel more comfortable with the idea that the people of Jurupa Valley would have an opportunity to vote, as opposed to, no offense, just the 4 of you. That seems like an awful small number of people to make a decision that normally the voters would make. That being said, if you do decide that you would prefer to make an appointment, I would request that you have a special meeting and not do it on September 2nd. You have until September 10th. September 2nd is the day after Labor Day. I think that that is too quick for, and given that it's right after the Labor Day holiday, it just would be too difficult for you to get the word out that people would have to make such a quick decision about whether they wanted to ask to be appointed to the position. At the very least, if you could move it to the following week, so that there would be a full month plus a few days for that process to be gone through. I think September 2nd is a few days short of even a month, and it's just too soon, particularly after Labor Day. Thank you.
Thank you. Board? Ms. Johnson?
My opinion is I'd like to go the route of the provisional appointment, because I don't like the idea of the area he represented to be without a representative, and that's my preference.
Thank you. Mr. Mendez?
What would be the cost of having a special election? That's what it would take in this case, right, to fill a vacancy by having it taken to the voters?
Those numbers are generally available from the registrar and vary on the size of the election, meaning I don't really know. I think in the past it's run no more than $1 a voter, and there's about 37,000 voters. I can't remember the last special election we had. But that's such a hip shot that I really don't want to be quoted on it, yeah.
Pardon?
Paula?
60 for the bond.
Okay, so it could be as high as 60.
As high as 60 possible.
Mr. Schaefer?
8 months seems a long time to wait to fill Mr. Hernandez's seat. I concur with Trustee Johnston. 8 months is a long time, and hopefully nothing would happen to any of us, but we're not spring chickens. But Bobby did a lot for his area, and that area deserves to have someone appointed. So that's my take on it.
Mr. Mendez?
It's difficult balancing the timing for this situation. I mean, I can see the valid argument that you presented, Ms. Johnson, and the thought that goes through my mind is kind of balancing the two situations. One, affording the voters the opportunity, which I really feel is important for them to have a voice. But again, I concur with my colleagues that I'm also concerned that the seat remained vacant for so long, in addition to the cost that we would incur in having a special election. There was something else on my mind that I was going to say. Oh, I know this is something that is still within the voters' rights, and that is that obviously if we appoint somebody that the voters do not approve with or agree with our decision, isn't there a recourse that they can also petition to the county registrar to recall the person or to go back to open an election?
Correct, there's a protest. I believe it's a petition signed by 1.5% 10% of the registered voters in the district. Not his area, but the district at large.
Okay, so the voters though will still have a recourse if they, for whatever reason, disagreed with whatever the appointment the board
Correct.
agreed upon having. Okay, thank you.
Do I have any motions?
Before the motion, I am concerned again with the short time frame with which we're being presented here. And I'm trying to think of if we make the decision to appoint somebody, as Mrs. Johnson said, to make sure that the word gets out there quickly. I mean, obviously, the minute vacancies come up, people begin considering if they're interested at all in being considered for the position. But I'm thinking if there's a way that we can, and I know that there's a process for us to publicize the opportunity for candidates that may be interested in the position, but I think that in light, again, of the short time frame that we have, the most we can cast, the sooner we can cast that net and cast that information as broadly as possible and encourage citizens in the area that would be good qualified candidates to encourage them to submit their application and intent for the position if that's a route that we as a board decide to go with.
Mr. Schaefer.
I'd like to make the motion, but I have another comment. The board should approve the process for filling the vacancy in trustee area 4 by provisional appointment. But the date, I agree with what the speaker said. We should, I believe, we should extend it another week. And that's only my opinion.
The following Monday would be September 8th. And that gives time for the paperwork to be submitted by September 10th.
I'll make the second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We're checking to make sure calendar-wise that'll work. Okay, do we want to, instead of meeting on September 2nd, do we want to postpone the first September meeting to September 8th, or just have a special meeting to review the candidates and appoint?
If there isn't anything critical to be addressed at the September 8th meeting, I mean the
September 2nd.
second meeting, I would propose that we postpone until the following week and allow us to maybe have that extra time for the information and candidates to step forward to be considered for the position, and take care of both the regular meeting and the appointment at that time.
Make the change. Let's do this, and then we can make the change to the board meeting. Yeah, okay, right. Well, we can announce it tonight, but we have to put it on the agenda and make the change next week for the board meeting, but that will work. So roll call vote for those that approve to process for the filing the vacancy in trustee area 4 by provisional appointment on September 8th. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Johnson? Yes. Trustee Schaefer? Yes. Trustee Mendez? Yes.
Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, board. And
I'm sorry.
thank you, Mrs. Jarrell Johnson, for.
And so we will advertise in the Riverside County Record, the Press Enterprise, the Daily Bulletin, which somehow comes with my Press Enterprise now, but we'll still try to do a separate advertisement. And we'll put it on the website, and if anybody has any other places they would suggest, we certainly can.
Thank you. And next is item C, approve adult education course list for the 2014-2015 school year. Mr. Dubrowski.
Thank you. The adult education scheduled course offerings are here today. They include English as a second language, citizenship, general studies, an online GED prep class, and a Casey prep class. We recommend that you approve the 14-15 adult education program course offerings.
Motion by Mr. Schaefer and a second by Mr. Mendez. Questions or comments? Roll call vote, please. Yes. Motion passes 4-0. Item D, approve purchase of graphing calculators for Rubidoux High School. Mrs. Ford.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, a second by Mr. Mendez. Questions or comments? Roll call vote, please. Yes. Motion passes 4-0. Item E, approve purchase of Dell computers for Rubidoux High School. Mrs. Ford. I have a motion by Mr. Schaefer, a second by Mr. Mendez. Questions or comments? Roll call vote, please. Motion passes 4-0. Item F, approve purchase of Microsoft Surfaces and covers. Mrs. Ford. We have a motion by Mr. Schaefer and a second by Mr. Mendez. Questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Johnston? Yes. Trustee Schaefer?
Yes.
Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
President Schmidt?
Yes. Motion passes 4-0. Item G, adopt resolution number 2015-06, levying special taxes. Mrs. Ford.
Each year, as the lead agency for several CFDs or community facilities districts, the district issues special tax bonds, which are paid through the annual levy of special taxes within the boundaries of each CFD. The special tax bonds that we're discussing have been issued on CFDs number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Number 6 has not had any bonds issued. In order to pay the principal and interest on the outstanding bonds and to pay for school facilities and administrative expenses in connection, the board must adopt an ordinance levying the special taxes on the parcels within these CFDs. Each ordinance, along with the special tax levy, is submitted to the county tax assessor prior to August 12th. And Delinka Group has prepared an annual administrative report outlining the calculation and apportionment for the special taxes for CFDs number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6, which you have as a supporting document. So administration is recommending the board adopt resolution number 2015/06, levying special taxes in fiscal year 2014-15 within each CFD for the payment of principal and interest on the outstanding bonds and the administrative expenses of the applicable CFDs.
Make a motion to adopt resolution number 2015-06.
Motion by Mr. Mendez.
Second.
A second by Mrs. Johnston. And Mr. Anderson, you wanted to speak on this item?
Good evening, Madam President and distinguished trustees. My name is Ron Anderson, and before I make my statement regarding this issue, I'd like to just make you aware of a couple of facts. One is I've been a resident, my wife and I, of this community for 39 years. We have never had the good fortune of having children of our own, and so I have no axe to grind. I have never been involved or had any direct dealings with the school system or the school district, whether as a parent or anything else. But having said that, I think as a I hope, responsible citizen, I think I have a pretty good appreciation of the needs of the students of the area, and I think it would be incumbent upon this board to look favorably on this, putting this bond issue initiative on the ballot for a number of reasons. One is, as a taxpayer, I fully appreciate some of the comments that were made regarding that perhaps the citizens, such as myself, cannot afford or do not want to pay more taxes. I don't think anybody looks forward to paying more taxes. But having said that, this decision you make tonight really is not stating whether people have to pay more taxes. What you're doing, you're giving us an opportunity to decide for ourselves if we consider the need grave enough to tax ourselves additionally to help support and improve the district. From what I've seen and read, and certainly by what I've seen earlier today in your presentations, I think if we have any civic pride or pride in our community, it was imperative that we try to do whatever we can to improve the conditions for the education of the students. It's not only the best teachers that they need, and the best curriculum and the best guidance that you people on the board can provide, but we do need the updated equipment, and certainly we need decent facilities that they can go to do their learning and education. It's almost unthinkable of some of the things I've seen and how long it's gone, and maybe I, as a citizen of the past, have not been vocal enough or didn't realize that maybe we should have been arguing in this position beforehand. But I certainly think that it is your fiduciary responsibility to let the citizens decide what this issue is going to bring about. And quite frankly, I don't know that we have an alternative. If we do nothing, it's certainly not going to get any better. And the costs are going to escalate, conditions are going to get worse, and it's just going to be a continual downhill path that we're taking. So I would certainly encourage you to vote yes on this bond initiative this evening. One other thing, what the schedule you might use, that's going to be, I don't pretend to know as much about the school district as you people do and how much it's going to take, but certainly I'm not sure the $144 million is going to do what you're talking need to do. So I will do everything I can to help you support the initiative if that's where you decide to go. And but I do think the vote has to be yes tonight to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. I just want to clarify for you that we're on item G, which is what you asked to speak on, but that's on the CFD's item I. But you're fine. You're fine. We still that's right. All right. So we have a motion and a second on item G to adopt resolution number 2015-06, levying the special taxes. Do I have any questions or comments? Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Johnston? Yes. Trustee Schaefer? Yes. Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
President Schmidt?
Yes. Motion passes 4-0. Item H, adopt emergency resolution number 2015-07, the emergency resolution to repair, replace items in Pedley Elementary School library. Mrs. Ford.
Make a motion.
Second?
A motion by Mr. Schaefer and a second by Mr. Mendez. Any questions or comments? I just have one comment. This is a perfect example of why we do need bond money. This is a repair that needs to be made. because old pipes broke at the library, flooding it over this summer break. And so it's a perfect example of where a little preventative maintenance could have saved repairs. With that, roll call vote, please. Yes, motion passes 4-0. Item I, adopt resolution number 2015-09, the resolution of the Board of Education of Jurupa Unified School District ordering an election to authorize the issuance of school bonds, establishing specification of the election order, and requesting consolidation with other elections occurring on November 4th, 2014. Mrs. Ford.
Resolution number 2015/09 calls an election under the provision of Proposition 39 for the purpose of approving school bonds in an aggregate amount not to exceed the amount determined by the board. The resolution also requests the County of Riverside Registrar of Voters conduct the election on behalf of the district, submit a ballot measure, a project list, and form of tax rate statement, and authorizes the preparation of ballot arguments to be included in the ballot pamphlet. Under state law, the board has the authority to call elections of district general obligation bonds. The resolution includes the full bond measure, the related project list, the 75-word ballot measure, and the tax rate statement. If the board so chooses, or if the board president so chooses, she is authorized to execute an argument in favor of the ballot measure, and the election will be called under the provisions of Proposition 39 and the California Ed Code 15264, whereby permitting the approval of the ballot measure with a vote of at least 55% of the electors voting, and requires the appointment of a Citizens Oversight Committee and annual financial and performance audits. At least 3 members of the board must be present for the resolution vote, and all must vote in favor of calling the election. If the resolution is adopted, original executed copies of the resolution and tax statement must be delivered to the registrar and the County Board of Supervisors no later than Friday, August 8th. So at this point, the board should decide whether to adopt resolution number 2015-09, resolution of the Board of Education of Jurupa Unified School District ordering an election to authorize the issuance of school bonds in the amount the board so chooses, establishing specifications of the election order, and requesting consolidation with other elections occurring on the November 4th, 2014.
I don't usually make the first motion, but
Let me make it then.
Feel that, nope,
I'll be happy
because
to
I
make
feel
it.
this is important.
You can run the show.
So I would like to make the motion that we adopt resolution number 2015-09 in the amount of $144 million and place it on the November 4th, 2014 election. Yes.
I'll second the motion.
Have a motion and a second. Comments, questions?
Well, I would like to thank Mr. Anderson for his comments. I totally agree with him. I think we have many needs, and I do want to give the residents the opportunity to vote for this, for these improvements. I don't see any reason to go for less when we need so much. And I just hope that the residents will agree. So thank you very much for your comments, Mr. Anderson.
Mr. Schaefer.
Sometimes I get too far into the minutia of things. I was looking at cost, and in order for this district to survive without the bond, we have to rely on LCFF funding, which is tied to the California economy. And sometimes the California economy is not well off. Tax revenue from the new homes, if the economy has stalled. So we really don't know what the tax revenue will be from all these new homes because I've already asked that question about 6 times. As far as alternative and supplemental school funding, there are some out there. Yes, it is a loan. There was the QZAB, which is a district probably would qualify for about $30 million at 2% or less. If this bond does not pass, I would probably try that. But if we could use that along with supplemental or with a bond, but we don't have time, I could go either way on this. I was on a committee for 6 months that visited every site. We do need reconstruction and rehab. But before I say anything else, Mr. Elzig, I have to say it again, you perform miracles with your crew, and if we could clone you and your abilities, we should do it. On the other side, you have the public that will be paying for this. Though many of our parents rent the homes they live in. For some of them, rents will go up, not $50 a year, but probably $50 a month or more. It's going to hit them in the pocketbook. Cost of electricity is going up 8% from Southern California Edison. Food prices are going up. They're being hit in the pocketbook. But looking at it, I'm sure they would want their children to have the best education possible. The other thing that I was concerned about is career tech education. I don't think we're going far enough with it, but you know what? The $11,900,000 proposed is 10 times more than what we're getting now. And the board will be an integral part of that, whether I'm here or not. We'll be making those decisions. There will be an oversight committee. There's many reasons to vote for it. There's many reasons not to vote for it. But for our community and for our nation, I mean, I'm sure, hopefully, Washington, D.C. will put together a comprehensive immigration policy. There are going to be a lot of kids to be educated. A lot of those kids' families won't be able to afford to send them to school or to college. Let's teach them a skill. Whether they're here or whether they get sent back, it doesn't matter. Let's teach them, let's give them an education, and let's teach them a skill and move on. I met with over 100 people, one-on-one, two-on-one, some in groups. It's 50-50 with them. So it is up to the voters. And with costs spiraling, most of the cost of this, looking at the numbers again, the $144 million bond, we're going to get about half that in real reconstruction and rehab. The rest is state mandated ADA compliance costs, state prevailing wage costs. So even though those costs are high, and I'm a cheapskate, and I would not run in the middle of the freeway for a penny or a nickel. But yes, I look at the costs, and sometimes I get bogged down, but our schools are 40, 50, 60 years old. We need to get them fixed. Pedley's a good example. But our kids deserve what the other school districts are also providing their students. So let the voters decide. And I think it's going to be a tight one. But hopefully for our students, it'll prevail.
Mr. Mendez.
First of all, I'd like to thank the facilities committee that was put together and their hard work over the months that they spent gathering information, visiting sites school by school, looking at everything from playgrounds to cafeterias to classrooms and every facet of our district that to really give the board, I think, some very valuable information to consider and to provide us with a realistic appraisal of the needs in our district. And I think that the community through the survey has indicated its support. Those surveys are designed scientifically to sample at a high rate of confidence the level of support that would be in our community. And even though costs are going up, especially for the, hits hardest, obviously, those that are least able to afford things. But I think that when it comes to the education of our students, that is the highest priority among us as educators, but more importantly, of us as parents. And I think that parents would be willing to support in making some sacrifices, maybe if need be, to help support and provide the best education for our children in this district. The needs are there. This is a great opportunity to move forward and take and address some of those most urgent needs, and maybe do some of the things that we would not even contemplate doing at all were it not be for this source of funding. So with all that said, I think that I have the confidence going by the information that has been presented to us in terms of the survey that was conducted, and I am confident that I will support the board if the board's decision is to go ahead with the board with the bond measure, and I would support it wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Roll call vote, please. Motion passes 4-0, and thank you, board members. Item J, act on student discipline cases. Approve reinstatement cases. We have 3, 13-054, 13-064, and 14-079. Motion by Mr. Schaefer, a second by Mr. Mendez. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Johnston? Yes. Trustee Schaefer?
Yes. Motion passes 4-0. Item K, approve personnel matters. Approve personnel report number 2. Mrs. Elzig.
Thank you. Administration recommends the approval of Personnel Report Number 2 as printed.
Motion to approve personnel report number 2.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Mendez, a second by Mrs. Johnston. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer? Trustee Mendez?
Yes. Motion passes 4-0. Item 2, approve job description and establish salary for Coordinator of Professional Development. Mrs. Elzig.
Thank you. Administration recommends the board approve both the job description and establish the salary for the appointment of Mr. Allen as Coordinator of Professional Development.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Mendez, a second by Mrs. Johnston. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer? Trustee Mendez?
Yes.
President Schmidt?
Yes. Motion passes 4-0. Item 3, adopt at a second reading, revised board policy 4350.3, management, leadership, team, administrative employees.
Make a motion to adopt at second reading revised board policy 4350.3.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Mendez, a second by Mrs. Johnston. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Johnston?
Yes.
Trustee Schaefer?
Yes.
Yes, motion passes 4-0. Item L, board member comments and committee reports. Mrs. Johnston.
Well, today is my anniversary, 1-year anniversary of being a board member. And it's been wonderful, and I hope that I can continue. So I want to thank the staff. I think you're awesome.
Mr. Schaefer.
This community will have an opportunity to see that the schools get improved, also to teach or opportunity for about the major majority of our students to learn career tech education. Many of our students cannot afford to go to college. Some don't want to. Some can't because academically it wouldn't work. But we do have that opportunity, and I would hope that when we go out to market this bond to the community, that we don't trash our schools. Our schools are in good shape. They're old. They need rehab. They need reconstruction. Some individuals said that, or say that, students are transferring out of the district because of the condition of the schools. We had a sitting board member at the time who transferred one or more of his children to Corona Norco. It wasn't because of the condition of the school. So I would hope that our schools, the conditions is not that we don't trash our schools to try to pass this bond, because it does the opposite effect. Let's just be transparent, and hopefully November 4th it passes.
Mr. Mendez.
I'd like to follow up on Mr. Schaefer's comments, and that is, he used the word market, the bond. But I like what he said in terms of presenting information to the voters. So my term that I would prefer would be to inform the public, to have them realize and receive the information that we have had to deal with in a way that it is meaningful to them, so that they can then make an informed choice when they do go to the polls, and make that decision based on the information that we have to weigh, and the tough decision that has to be made on some of these issues. And with that, I think that if it's presented in that manner, I do feel that our community is willing to make that sacrifice and invest again in the future of our students. Our community is very giving. I know that when I was principal and I would reach out to my community at the school, my parents and my surrounding community, and they would make sacrifices. We were in need to finance a field trip or finance, anything else for the students. And so I think that, once again, I think the parents in our community will step up and support that. I'd like to thank Mr. Anderson for his comments. I think they were right on target in terms of this particular issue. And I think that we all work together on presenting this information in a manner that, again, is meaningful to the community. They will come through and for us and be there to support our students. I also wanted to thank Mrs. Johnson. I appreciate her comments in terms of, she left, but I appreciate her comments that she had to make in terms of the other decision that we had to decide this evening, and that was to fill Mr. Hernandez's position. It's going to be a tough thing to do, because Bobby was a tremendous board member and a valuable member of the team up here. It's a tough challenge going to be for us to find somebody that, again, has the qualities that makes someone a good board member. We're going to be looking for that. So we're looking forward, again, for the community's help to help us encourage members in our community to step forward and be considered for that position. I wish we had the luxury of being able to delay this and place it before the voters, but I think that within the given situation that we have, I truly believe the decision is what the board has done, and that is to fill the vacancy in the meantime, and try to get the person on board and have the election, then the public determine whether they keep that person or maybe elect somebody next time around. So thank you very much. Oh, one more thing on just another note. Just this morning, it was so wonderful to have attended the first new teacher orientation and reception this morning for the first time in I don't know how many years, Ms. Zelzek. When was the last time that we had the chance to hire teachers and actually have this privilege of having that happen? 2006-07. It's been a long time, and I was so impressed with the quality and the diversity and the talents and skills of the new teachers that have been hired for the district this coming year, and I'm excited, looking forward to their contributions to this district. So thank you very much.
I'd like to thank Mr. Little for coming, and I think I speak for the board when I say we look forward to working with you this year with NEAJ. To all the 4 that came out tonight regarding the bond, thank you for your comments and positive note that you brought to bringing us to an answer on the bond issue. We look forward to, hope to see you out helping get the information out to the community on the importance of the board, because you've all represented the needs eloquently to us tonight. I also want to congratulate all the the 3 new appointees tonight, and to remind everyone that next Tuesday is the first day of school. Watch for the buses and stop when the buses are flashing their red lights, and drive slowly past the schools, because we don't want to be getting bad reports on accidents around the schools. And I know the first day is always a shock for everybody that the kids are back out, because you've been speeding, not you guys, but some people have been speeding past the schools while they've been out for the summer. With that, thank you all for attending, and we will adjourn until the next meeting. Thank you.